Booyah. Hola, blah, blah, blah. Kid Nate's line. Special show today, the two renegades with no semblance of order or organization without Kid Nate. This is Dallas Winston, a bloody elbow, joined
Dallas
by
Winston. Let me tell you about that guy.
joined by the incomparable Eugene S. Robinson. What does the S stand for today, man?
The S stands for Sleepy Jack. We got up early to do this one. We're like farmers. This is farmer time, got up with the sun.
I'm fresh off the tractor, speaking of that.
You and Mr. Henry Crinkle right behind you, man. Filmed by my high school,
Yep. Tilled the fields. I got all my chores done for the morning.
Oh, no. I'm talking about the taxi driver thing behind you.
Oh, yeah, that too. Bobby D and I were tilling the fields this morning.
All those like extras that were in that movie all used to hang around my high school. I remember at one point like seeing two trannies almost beat each other to death with their shoes. And that's when I learned, do not mess with trannies. They might look like ladies, but they're really strong dudes with high heel shoes.
Yeah, and the craziest shit too. Yeah. I mean, they won't just throw that shoe at you. They'll stab your eyeball with that high heel.
There's a guy who used to hang out on the Lower East Side who was named Spacely. Spacely had an eye patch. I asked somebody, hey, man, how'd Spacely get the eye patch? That's how he got the eye patch. Got into a fight with a tranny, the shoe came off, boom, eyeball came out.
Man, if I'm going to have a poked out eye, I'd like to have a more glorious reason.
I was in a battle.
Something.
Instead of a drug burn in Tompkins Square Park and a fist fight with a tranny. Yeah, that actually that's not bad as eyeball stories go. That's not a bad one, I guess.
So I always get bored talking about straight MMA all the time, and I always try to lure Nate into some kind of off-topic intro. And you're a movie man, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
So I have no life anymore. Things have been different for me, and I've been taking care of my cat all the time still. Scoob's holding on like a champ, though. But I almost watch a movie like every day. But I took a little walk down memory road over the holidays and watched a couple old classics, man. The first was Dead Presidents.
Yeah. The Hughes brothers I thought that was one of their weaker offerings, though, man.
Did you really?
Yeah, I did.
I love that, and for a lot of the reasons that a lot of people didn't like it, because it didn't, anytime I like to watch like a lot of independent films, and I like that they'll stray from the path, and they don't always have any dramatics, like this huge dramatic intro, and everything builds up to this huge climax, and everything ties together. It's almost just like... This is just what happens in this fucking story. It's not dramatic. This is it. And that's what I kind of liked about Dead Presidents. It was like, it was real. It was kind of raw, and there wasn't a lot of that glitz and glam.
You know what? Like if you listen to Stevie Ray Vaughan, you can hear somebody who listened to Hendrix and go, I wonder what Hendrix would have done had he lived. Well, with the Hughes brothers, when I watch their stuff, it's kind of like, I wonder what Martin Scorsese would have done if he had never cleaned up on coke.
Biggest mistake of his career.
Yeah, no shit. I mean, so I look at the Hughes brothers as kind of Scorsese interpreters, and you can watch their movies take on. It opens up with maybe a spoken word intro, voiceover of some kind. All I ever wanted to be was a gangster. Correlates quite nicely to their L.A. gangbang movie. So, but then Dead Presidents, I don't know. It was kind of gritty and real, but there were parts at which the acting was weak enough where I was dragged out of the story. But it's been a while since I've seen it, and on your recommendation, I'm willing to go back in.
First time,
but I did like their From Hell, their Jack the Ripper story. I thought that was pretty effective.
All right, I was actually going to ask you what your favorite Hughes Brothers flick was, and before you answer that, Dead Presidents, I saw that shortly after it came out, and that's when I was all like set to go to film school, and Hughes Brothers were a big influence for me on that. I thought out of all, like the gangbanging stories, that Menace to Society was the best by far.
Hands down.
Not even close.
No, the Boys in the Hood was absolute fucking shit. It was an after-school special, and that guy, John, what was the director's name?
Singleton.
John Singleton, man, that guy was overrated talent. I remember when I was at Code Magazine, I wrote a review or something, or wrote about him, and he actually called the magazine. He's like, I don't know what I did to that guy who wrote it, but it was just like I just hated that like he was like this kind of what is that thing called? Affirmative action kid. Like he's a black director, so we gotta love it. This movie was shit. It was shit. It was predictable. It was gawky. The actors were indicate. It was just terrible from top to bottom, man. If you didn't know shit about South Central, maybe you thought it was good, but Menace to Society, I thought, was the movie. I thought if you wanted a movie about South Central that was definitive, like Mean Streets was for Little Italy in New York in the '70s, this was it.
Yeah, that's funny because I kind of thought the same thing, but it took me a while. To me, Boys in the Hood, it was just the precedent. It was really the first, you know what I mean? It was like the first foray into a market that was obviously, ripe for the pickings or whatever.
Yeah, that's fine. But don't tell me that John Singleton's a genius, because he's clearly not,
Yeah, I don't think so. And I actually thought Menace to Society came along and hit it out of the park after that, because it was like Boys in the Hood whet your appetite a little bit, but then you got the real. The kind of the real shit in Menace to Society. And so I still want to get to you on your favorite Hughes Brothers flick, but after I saw Dead Presidents Again, I really liked it. There was a scene, I couldn't ever remember what movie this was in, that war scene when Homeboy went off to take a dump in the wood or off in the jungle, and then they found him, and I don't know, someone was complaining that our language isn't fit for the family audience, or they had to hide the kids or whatever. But if you remember what I'm talking, so I don't want to speak plainly about what happened, but he had a very prized and revered portion of his body removed and stuffed in his mouth when they found him all mutilated.
That's right.
And I remember when I first saw that, and I like that they didn't overpronounce that. They didn't make a big deal. It was just kind of something that you had to notice and pick up on. And when I saw Dead Presidents, I wouldn't have guessed that that's what flick it was from. But so, favorite Hughes Brothers flick, is it From Hell? Because I've never seen that. I just DVR'd it.
No, it's not From Hell. It's actually, I'm going to have to go to Menace to Society. I mean, there's always a special feel that you have for debuts where for example, even though I liked Mean Streets, I would never claim that was my first Scorsese movie where I go, God damn, that was something, I mean, Menace to Society was their debut. Well, maybe it even wasn't their debut. I don't know if they had some student film before then that I missed, but it was I thought, revelatory, and it was one of those things where I stayed to the end to see who the hell directed this, who are these guys, because they got the right tone. I mean, going to the movie, I had no idea who they were. It was just like, hip hop gang bang movie. Yeah, fine, okay, I'll give this a shot. But I stayed for the credits and I did, back before the internet. I was reading up and trying to figure out who the hell they were. So
I don't know if that was their first offering ever, but I know that was like their first, breakout mainstream spot.
Yeah.
Even though, and I thought Lorenz Tate would. And he did. I mean, he got some mainstream roles after that, but I thought he'd go huge. And to me, it's interesting. It almost sounds blasphemous to say because he played O-Dog. I mean, I don't think anyone could have played it better, but I was surprised at whoever the cat was that they picked to play the main role. And he didn't really go on to do a whole lot after that.
Yeah. Well, this is, Hollywood sucks, man. I mean, when I look at the number of guys, any Shia LaBeouf fans? Well, he's in everything. Do you know any Shia LaBeouf fans who aren't teenage girls?
Yeah, well, man, I wouldn't state in no way, shape, or form would I go out and say, tout myself as a Shia LaBeouf fan. But
is it Shia LaBeouf? There you go. Right.
Fuck if I know. We're gonna murder every pronunciation from here on outward on this show.
He's a plenty affable guy when he's not plagiarizing other people's stuff. But I mean, what?
Yeah, well, the stuff he does now is all cliche and empty, but what I first saw him in was a really good flick, Guide to Recognizing Your Saints, I think, with Robert Downey Jr. Did you see that flick?
I did not see this. Yeah.
And see, so that kind of changed my whole opinion. I think that was the first movie I saw both him and Channing Tatum in, and Channing Tatum was pretty straight in that role too, played like a real dirty, mean. That was a pretty good flick.
Hey, text me the title of that. I'll watch it.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad actually. I mean, it's worth. It has a lot more substance in the story, and therefore,
yeah. Okay, one film then, and then the guy goes on to, It just doesn't seem to. I don't know who's sitting there making decisions about about. Well, they've got that whole likability meter thing, so which accounts for why you and I are not don't have late night shows.
Yeah, but I mean, I assume that's a case where, they're throwing homeboy. I mean, they're waving dollars in front of his face. You know what I mean?
Oh, and for me, I don't shame him at all for taking it. It's like Chris Rock said about Jude Law, who I actually like. I like Jude Law, but he's like, who's Jude Law, and why isn't he? Why is he in every movie? It's not so much whether I like Jude Law or Shia LaBeouf or not. It's the fact that somebody sitting around decided we need that guy again and again and again and again. Who are they kidding? Who are they kidding? Who's making this decision?
Yeah, and that seems like a pattern that always repeats.
Mm,
Even it can be a chick, an actress or an actor. They're in
mm,
everything, and then all of a sudden they're gone, and you
yep.
wonder what the hell happened.
Yep.
It's like a 25 minutes of fame instead of the
Yeah.
15.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
All right, well, we'll get to the MMA stuff now, but the other thing, we don't have time, but I also watched American Me, Edward James Olmos.
Mm-hmm.
And, that has that whole tie-in because the first one I saw was, of course, the fucking cult classic, Blood In, Blood Out,
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Milkweed. And that, to me, that was kind of fascinating. I didn't quite put together that those were the same stories until
Mm-hmm.
I watched them both. And I looked up the wiki page on that afterwards, and it said that Edward James Olmos actually went to court because a couple of the old Mexican mafia guys were so pissed off at a couple of the things that were untrue, like the leader getting raped in prison, that someone tried to extort him for all kinds of money. And I don't know if it's true, but one consultant and one producer, I believe it says on the wiki page, were straight up murdered
Mm-hmm.
directly in relation to the product they put out and how it reflected on that. So I thought that was
I,
trippy.
I got to check that out. Yeah, it almost has been like this kind of lightning rod for difficulty. I mean, the whole weirdness with him and Lorraine Bronco, and then Harvey Keitel, and allegations of molestation and the uncomfortable divorce procedure. I don't know, man. It got heavy and deep for him there for a while.
Yeah, and I got a lot of respect for him as an old school guy, Castillo on Miami Vice, but guys like him and like Kevin Costner, I was kind of like what you were saying about Shia LaBeouf. I
Mm,
mean, they're not terrible, but I mean, I don't know, kind of like
yeah.
flat
But
actors and all.
yeah, well, Costner's got a flat affect, but that's his shtick. I mean, and you're right. So almost has that kind of steely thing. You knew him as Castillo on Miami Vice. I'm remembering him from on Broadway. When he was in Zoot Suit, that was his breakout role. If you remember, he played a Zoot Suiter, and this was back in the '70s. So but I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
Huh.
At this point now, Cosner, I went to see Anchorman 2 with my kids, and we're walking through the lobby, and I see two Kevin Costner posters right next to each other. He's got two movies coming out. It's like, I like Costner, but not that much, man.
Wow, I had no idea he was still doing shit.
Yep,
Best, or at least my favorite Kevin Costner flick is Revenge, an '80s movie. I don't
I
know if you've
remember
seen.
this. I remember
But
this.
that was by one of my all-time favorite authors, Jim Harrison, who actually
Yep,
happens to be from Northern Michigan. But he did Legends of the Fall,
yep, 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 yep,
Wolf with Jack Nicholson.
yep, yep.
Excellent writing,
Also,
man.
yeah, great movie as well. That was a season when there were like six werewolf movies. After American Werewolf in London, everybody went werewolf crazy, and there was Wolfen, there was Wolf, they were
The
like
Howling.
The Howling, and I saw it every single one, man. I'm
Yeah, I
like
did
on a
too.
werewolf movie binge. So mostly I knew this guy who invented what he called a feraliminal lycanthropizer. His name is David, and I'll spare you his last name because I don't know how legit. Well, and he said he built this thing based on some purloined Nazi documents. It all goes back to the Nazis, right? And so what it looks like one of those big 1970s stereo consoles. And you set it up, and apparently it has a frequency response that unlocks the limbic portion of your brain, and it turns anybody who listens to it into werewolves. And there's all this documentation about plugging it in at parties, and then people, back when the Nazis were testing it, and then within half an hour, people were running around the room acting like animals, attacking each other, and so forth. So the Nazis were doing this whole thing with they used to call it Klangkrieg, sound war, using sound to affect battlefield changes. And the feraliminal lycanthropizer was one of the things that they supposedly had invented So this was around that time that I just had werewolves on the mind because this guy was going out with the sister of a girlfriend of mine, and he was like trying to get me to write about this paraliminal lycanthropizer, which I actually never did. So, but
I think they
there you
stock
go.
those devices at Walmart, right?
They're called TVs. They
All
make
right,
you
so
crazy.
everyone wants to know why we're not talking about MMA because Kid Nate's not here.
Yeah, we're just going
That's it.
crazy, man. We
Yeah,
can let this shit go on for two
yeah.
hours. Yeah, yeah.
I guess we ought to get him on.
Where is Kid Nate, by the way?
Pimp
As in
Nate.
Jean, as in Jean Nate.
I don't know. He's doing some family vacation. He's doing the boss thing where he's telling
Likely
everybody what to
story.
do and not doing shit. Actually,
Napoleon.
I'm a dick to Nate as he is to me when we're face to face. But with him not being here, he's a good cat, man. He's a good boss, good dude. So I don't
And
ever
let me
want.
tell you about Nate. Let me tell you about that guy. That's my one man meme. That's it. And no matter who is mentioned, whose name is mentioned, you gotta go like you got some kind of inside track. Oh yeah, let me tell you about that guy. Last time I saw that guy, I can't even tell you. So anyway, MMA.
What? Oh, all right. So you guys usually do the care, don't care. Nate and I
Right.
usually do the in-depth preview. We're going to do some kind of warped
Frankenstein
hybrid.
monster,
That's right.
yeah, Frankenstein monster mix of care preview.
So overall, what are your thoughts on this card? I'm guessing, considering just the focus for this one, that it doesn't have a lot of mainstream appeal. Your opinion?
Well, you're correct. It does. I am convinced that people are still recovering from last week's fight, UFC 168, and I would guess that this fight is much more significant because of where it is than what it is. I mean, and you can see that within the advertising. They're making a big deal about this being, UFC Asia, the Singapore thing. And from that point of view, in his Ultimate Fighter, isn't Kung Lee leading the Ultimate Fighter Asia season? So this is a big push. They did have a fight in Macau. I'm, the people I know who are in that part of the world are certainly pretty excited about it. To be able to actually see it. But I don't know what this means in a larger business sense. And I mean, typically, I'm relying on other people to tell me what this means from a larger business sense. But I know it means something. It's like, what? Something's burning. Something's burning, isn't it? Yeah. Well, something's happening. I just don't know what.
Well, I'm guessing this is basically like stage 2 of the UFC spearhead into the Asian market, which makes sense on all levels, really, because we know that's huge. It's a martial arts friendly environment, and it's largely untapped, especially by the UFC. So from a business standpoint, I think that explains it all. And it's one of those where if they're going to get into it, you know what I mean, there's no way around it. The first couple of shows, people are going to be looking around going, who are these cats? I don't recognize any of these names. But I'm a little bit warped in that there's never been a UFC event in its entirety that I don't care about. And it was kind of nice on this one, realizing that I'm not familiar. I used to be a big, Pride fanboy, Japanophile, all that, and it's interesting that now that, considering the decline of Japanese MMA, I had to go back and do research on a bunch of these dudes I didn't even know. And I was really upset that Katsunori Kikuno is not on the main card. Like, I don't even know how that can fly. Kikuno?
Yeah, Katsunori Kikuno, yeah. But hey, hold on. This brings up a certain point. How long has it been since Pride went belly up? I mean, if you ask me at first blush, I would say, I don't know, 5 years. But now thinking about it, I know in actual fact it's been like 10 years, right?
If I had to guess, I'd say 7, right in between what you said, a little longer than 5, a little less than. It can't be 10 because, oh my God, it's 2014. No one even told me. It might have been. I'm going to say
Yeah.
7, 8 years ago.
Yeah. Well, I guess we could find that out. But I mean, it was longer ago than, and I don't know. I mean, is does the market drive the horse, or does the horse drive the market? I kind of wonder if the client. is a decline of Japanese MMA? Does it have anything to do with with Pride dying? You know,
Oh, everything.
yeah.
To me, that was I was literally emotionally distraught after the UFC bought. I mean, it, there's
Well,
nothing in MMA.
after they bought and shit canned Pride, because
Yeah,
there was
yeah.
some talk at first that they were not going to shit can it. So
No, no. The first talk was we're buying Pride, but don't worry, we're going to have this Super Bowl tournament, and every UFC champion is going to fight every Pride champion.
mm-hmm.
So then I was like, oh, I'm a little leery about this, but I mean, that's the best way to, to get me interested. But then not only did they not have those super fights, they didn't even sign, Gomi. They didn't even sign like the marquee guys. And
Well,
I know,
my understanding was that there were no contracts. That Pride didn't maintain contracts.
yeah, but if that's the case, then that should mean it's a clean slate,
Yep.
right?
Yeah, but there was also like a 5 point, and then keep in mind this is just rumor innuendo that I picked up that there was a 5 point portion of the deal, right? That they to get to the end, they had to there were 5 things that they had to do, And so the first thing they bought were the name, The second thing they bought were the percentage of fighters that they were interested in or had access to. There were no contracts, so it's like, okay, well, we're going to take an option on these guys. And the third thing were all the video rights. And then the last two, which would have completed the sale in total, which would have involved a transfer of much larger portions of cash to the Pride guys, the Zuffa fellas just were like, you know what, we're cool. 4 and 5, we're cool, and that maybe that had something to do with them not continuing on the promotion. I don't know. Again, this is rumor innuendo. So that once they got they own the name, they own the rights to sell the videos and the intellectual property. It's like, we're done. You guys want to sue us, go ahead, but we're finished. So
And that's what was unfortunate is that once they got the video rights, that seemed to be once they have that, they can, the UFC could survive either way.
Yeah, right.
And I don't want to pile it all on them. And further on the rumor mill was a lot of the Yakuza, whatever you want to call that, rumors that they weren't having it. And then I know, like, Joachim Hansen, Hellboy, was out, publicly vocal and saying, why the hell would I sign with the UFC? I was making X. Yeah. They offered me half of that, and that's including my win bonus if I would have won or something along those lines. And then another inside source kind of told me that,
which of course was a quick trip to the UFC saying, you want to go fight with Pride? Go fight with Pride.
Yeah,
Pride doesn't exist anymore. Oh, phew.
And it's really too bad that Sengoku and Dream, because I think if there would have been a united force over there, that would have been obviously a better chance of carrying on the remnants of Pride. But the fact that it was split between Sengoku and Dream, even when Dream used to do their K1 shows at the New Year's Eve, which were still pretty epic, man, I still really enjoyed those. But yeah, to me, the day that the UFC bought Pride signaled, and I'm not saying, I don't like talking about like decline of Japanese MMA because that's all like in the eye of the beholder. I'm sure there's a lot of people over in Japan going, we're doing just fine. We don't live and die by the UFC.
Yeah, and if the UFC stopped existing, I'll be training tonight.
Right.
So.
Oh yeah, even if they, I think they said that a while ago. We don't. The world doesn't live and die by the ultimate fighting. It's MMA. Right. However, I do think that if there is a decline to Japanese MMA, it was triggered by the sale of Pride, and I think the entire spectrum of global MMA from that day forward shifted from global MMA to the U.S. and Ultimate Fighting in the UFC.
Yep. Yeah. Well, you're right about that. But at the same time, I remember I was at the Tokyo Dome. I saw a fight there at the Tokyo Dome, and 65,000 people. I think Maurice Smith fought or was in somebody's corner. This is how long ago. I mean, we're talking 11, 12 years ago. So I just kind of wonder, man. 65,000 people. You'd be hard pressed to find that many MMA fans to show up to an event. Yeah, that's a lot of people, and a lot of asses and a lot of seats. But I guess maybe I'm kind of curious that it's taken this long, and I don't know. I'm curious as to how the event's going to go.
Yeah, I am too. And on the other hand, though, I like, I'm kind of down with all this because there's a lot of guys that I weren't real intimately familiar with, and even just doing a quick little bit of research on him, my appeal, I'm more interested in this card than I was before.
Okay.
Any matchups to you stand out, or any fighters you really want to see on this lineup?
Well, I'm gonna have to be a tad on the predictable side. Kawajiri, of course, interested in. Max Holloway. I mean, this this is our Reader's Digest. This is our Reader's Digest care don't care variation. Justin Kimura, I'd be interested in. You a few minutes ago hit me to Leandro Issa, which is a BJJ guy I should thought about but had forgotten. And then of course, I'm interested in the main event. So Tarek Saffiedine and Hong Young Lim. So, but it's an interesting matchup because of the fact that I mean, it's like UFC Asia, but I guess maybe the fact that they've drawn from all over Asia makes it okay that Lim is Korean, you get Koreans, Japanese. I mean, will this make a difference to the average Singaporean fan or not? I mean, in terms of people buying the seats, yes or no? I don't know. I mean, there's a big, huge fight base there. They got guys I know who fight in Hong Kong, guys I know who are fighting in Bangkok, in Saigon, but I'm an American geography major, which means I don't know shit about. I've been to a lot of places, but I don't know shit about where stuff is in relation to each other. So, how far does it take to get from Bangkok to Singapore? I don't know. Where are people going to be coming from for this fight? I don't know. These guys. Does Will Chope pull much weight in Singapore? I don't know. What about Quinn Mulhern? I don't know.
What do you know about Will Chope?
I don't know much about Will Chope outside of the fact that he's 19-5, or I mean, that he fucking he fights out of the Philippines, I mean, but Will Chope is clearly not. Well, maybe he is Filipino. What do I know? What do I know?
I believe, I don't know if he's American. He's a white boy that moved over to Thailand. And a couple real interesting things about this dude. He is 23 years old, and as a featherweight, he is
6'4". Yeah, that's crazy. That's great. And he's got 12 freaking submissions. So, which is strange, right? If you see an American he's listed his city, his Baguio City, which I'm mispronouncing, of course, in the Philippines. But if you see an American guy in Thailand, he's usually over there for MMA, or I'm sorry, for Muay Thai.
And I think that's why he went over there, which makes his submission record. That's one of the things that kind of got me my ears perked up about this dude.
Yeah. I mean, so listen, what we say as a prelude to the care or don't care things, like this is not a statement on the fighters. It's a statement on the marketing behind the fighters, whether or not we've been able to hear anything about them. But yeah, this kid. I picked his name at random just to see if. Yeah, and he's fought a lot of guys, but he's fought a lot of guys who I don't know.
That's kind of the case with a lot of these dudes, because a lot of a ton of the Asian fighters are like Pancrase, deep vets and that kind of thing. So their record is loaded quantity wise, but the quality is always what comes into question. But either way,
you know what? When I was doing MMA, I had a match against a guy who was supposed to be the head of Hong Kong Pancration, right? And he was flying over here to fight me. And this was an underground thing in San Francisco Fight Club, where I met Chris Sanford, where he knocked me out the first time we met. And so this guy was like, this guy's head of Pancration in Hong Kong. He's actually Australian, who moved to Hong Kong, trained. He's 250 pounds. This is back when I was, maybe 240. So it's a guy who I was fighting. And so I was super tense, man. Guy seemed to be a very tough guy. We start the match, open up with a few leg kicks, punch him in the face, snap down, get behind him, take his back, choke him out. And I'm like, there's something maybe not so right about this, and because it was a fight club and not like a sanctioned event, the guy was like, he called me out again, get back in the cage. It's very much a repeat of the first. And at this point, the guy's giving me advice while I'm beating him up. He's like, no, what you got to do is, and I'm like, there's something wrong. I mean, how could there be such an incredible gap between who he is, what he thinks he is, and what he's actually showing in the cage? I don't know. Maybe he's got the guys in Hong Kong gassed, or maybe he's used to fighting guys who are 5'2", 135 pounds. I don't know, but it was strange. So yeah, there could be a big gap. These numbers don't mean crap if they're, I mean, maybe if I had time to spend on YouTube and tracking down some of these fights, I might see something that's worth something. But I don't have that time.
So you beat him twice?
I beat him twice,
Where's your pancreas at now, Playboy?
That's exactly right. I mean, it was like...
And he's giving you advice? That's like Napoleon Dynamite. Grab my arm. My other arm!
That's right. Well, it was one of those things, you know what? It was one of those things where at that point I was like... This is crazy. I started to think he was one of those crazy guys who was like, yeah, I'm a cage champ, just like a crazy guy, and just telling people I'm a black belt and getting in there, getting pasted, and like for some weird kind of perversion. I like losing, a masochism thing. I don't know. But,
well, hopefully this will be our last tangent. But on the topic of that, one of the most humbling things ever in martial arts is when a guy is talking to you gently and giving you instructions as he is just schooling you. That is humbling, Or when they laugh, dude angles up for a helicopter armbar, and I hear him giggling like the whole way, and I'm like, what's he laughing about? I'm all, oh, that's what he's laughing about.
Or Daniel Gracie, where he's rolling with me and I tap, and he just looks at me sadly and says, "You can't tap to that." Like, no, I am actually tapping to that. He's like, I won't let you tap to that. It's like, oh shit.
True story?
Yeah, it's true. I got to fucking fight. At that point, I got a little angry, So I did. I came up with what it took to fight out of it. It's like, come on, man. Now I feel like I'm 5 years old, Jack. Come on. I'm tapping. Come on. Recognize the tap, please.
That's right.
It was very funny.
Yeah. All right, let's roll through this.
Yes.
I forgot. I thought you and I were just talking. This is some kind of show we're supposed to be conducting here.
Yes.
All right.
This is UFC Fight Night 34 for all you guys who are sitting there with your gambling card in front of you.
Good to mention. Important mention. That's our first homage to Kid Nate. We don't get prized tidbits of info like that without him here. So, in this bitch is early. 6 a.m. Eastern is the start of the preliminary card. So that's 3 a.m. where you're at, right?
Yeah, so I won't be watching it live.
Yeah, it's not quite worth the old staying up all night to catch a pride.
It's not quite worth all that crystal meth you have to take.
Family show.
Coffee.
Family show.
Your family show.
Text me about that afterwards. Just kidding. Come on, y'all. Come on. We're professional.
We're jokesters.
We're mature, responsible adults.
Yes.
Russell Doan versus Leandro Issa, first fight up. Don't know a lot about Russell Doan, but Leandro Issa's solid. He's been coming up for a while. I think he's due for a UFC shot. BJJ world champion. I don't know what the odds are on this one, but I'm going to go Issa.
Yeah, I think Issa makes sense. I mean, Doan. I would pronounce it Douane. It's like a French.
Don't pronounce it wrong.
No, I think it's a French last name. But yeah, he's from Hawaii, so I don't know what that means, except that based on his record, I would say that he's a guy who likes to stand and punch people in the face a lot. I mean, we've seen hardcore BJJ guys come to MMA, and I'm thinking of Marcelo Garcia and not do super well. But I'm guessing that won't be the case. Anyway, I'm going to do some BJJ nut jumping, and I'm going to go with Issa on this one as well.
Yeah, he's pretty legit. He's been around for a while, and his style's pretty tailored to MMA. I think he's out of the Evolve MMA camp, which really, it's far from my area of expertise, but what I would say is kind of the name team over as far as getting that up. I think Aoki moved over there and is there full time now. Mm-hmm. So, anyways, speaking of Hawaiians, up next, Dustin.
Well, he also comes from the great city of Ubatuba.
For real?
I'm sorry, I'm enough of a junior high school student. Somebody breaks loose with Ubatuba, man, and I gotta laugh. Oh, you come from Yuba Tuba. Okay, good. All right, I'm glad we got that out of the way. You know. So anyway, sorry.
I'm from Ubatuba.
I'm from Yuba Tuba, man.
Dustin Kamira versus John De Los Reyes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you know, I'm interested in this one, but I'm not sure that I'm interested for healthy reasons. You know, I mean, and it happens to me every time. Every time I've seen dude fight Dustin Kimura. It's just a name. You know, it's just the name. How could you not like a guy? It's like Johnny Football or you know.
Richard
Uh,
Ass Kick.
yeah, MMA smash him. I mean, you're
But
not gonna like this guy.
definitely took note of Kimura's debut because I mean he was slick as hell off his. You know, it's not often that we see a. I don't even. I would call him based on what I've seen of him a jiu-jitsu specialist,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's not often we can see a guy like I'm not going to be able to think of his name, a guy who can control and take over
Mm,
off his back from guard.
yeah,
And
yeah.
so he looked excellent in his debut, and I don't remember who it was, but I believe he lost his second fight.
Chico Camus
Oh
or
yeah,
Camus. Yeah, that's who he beat. So
I don't remember that fight very well actually.
it was all well. It's because it was overshadowed. It was
Oh
Jose Aldo and Frankie Edgar fight. So
no, my bad. That's who he beat in his debut.
yeah, that's who he beat in his debut.
Who in his sophomore effort? Do you have who that was?
Yeah, that was Mitch Gagnon, which he got fucking submitted, which was a drag, you know.
Yeah,
But
I haven't been given Gagnon his full. He deserves more respect than I've been giving him, and even
Gagnon.
though even though Gagnon, even though I wanted Kimura to win that fight, and he hasn't. He's still a prospect. I think Kimura is a really young cat, but
Mm-hmm.
still, the way that Mitch is looking solid lately, and
Mm-hmm.
not just limited. He's got a. I wouldn't call him a real stellar three-dimensional guy, but he can throw hands, he can wrestle, and his submission game is pretty sick.
He's only won by submission, man. He's got 10 wins. He's got 10 submission wins. You know, I mean, this is that I think that's except he has got the fucking indignity of losing to Brian Caraway. What the hell happened there? What
Yeah,
the hell happened there?
yeah, I don't know. Caraway, I think he's good. I don't know why I think people don't respect the dude. And actually, I thought he was legit, knowing some of his past accolades, and I was not impressed with him on the Ultimate Fighter. Although that might have been his pre-fight mental issues and being kind of scared or whatever. But
Mm,
he's starting to show why he had a little bit of hype coming in, I think.
mm,
But going back to, I think the difference both when Mitch beat Kimura and the difference between those two as fighters is they're both submission specialists.
no.
But I think Mitch is not limited to that. I think he's developed real legit
Right,
skills in all the other areas, and that only helps to pretty much like enhance his core competency of submission skills. So
right, right, right.
that's where I hope Kimura ends up going here, and I'm going to pick him by submission here. You got to pick.
Oh man, we're too much of the same minds here. Yeah, I was gonna pick him as well, but yeah, as we get deeper into the card, I'll get more contrary. Like for example, Mairbek Tasumov against Tai Hyun Bang. I got no idea, my friend. Do you? Maybe this is where I'm coming up on the dry beach of my MMA knowledge. I have no idea
Well,
who these guys are.
and I got to be honest, man. Because I was running this show, it took me 2 hours just to figure out how to. And that's the scary part. This is 2 hours of preparation, and this is the end result, and I'm happy with it. So the only two matchups I didn't get to look into and research are these next two, Bangin Taisimov and Galera versus Royston Wee. So, I mean, I'm fine
We're,
skipping.
we're, 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 we are completely and totally in the dark without a flashlight on this one. I mean, look, I know the guy's from Austria, but I have no idea. He's fought a bunch of guys in Europe. The only guy who Carlos Eduardo Rocha, is a Brazilian guy, but he spent a lot of time in Germany. He was pulled out of Brazil pretty early. Been training German fighters, fighting German MMA, and he's got tough guys in Germany, Austria. I'm sorry to conflate them. I know it might rankle some. the wrong way after the World War II bit, but whatever. Yeah, no. You got tough guys in that part of the world, but I just don't know them. So,
Wait,
you know, American
Where does Rocha fit in? He
Hosha, yeah, yeah. He was the first guy I knew who I actually trained with, and he as a UFC fighter. He has been cut, but he's shoulder injuries. But he was the first guy who was bringing information to me about the German MMA scene. You know,
weird. Yeah, I remember him well. He had a sweet showing against Ellenberger, dominated
yeah,
him on the ground. Man, that
yep,
was
yep.
poetry. That was beautiful.
Yeah, yeah. No, he's a very tough guy, and he has a great story. I wrote about it for Fightland. You know, like it was actually a terrible story, man. He's like 5 or 6 years old. You know, his family said, "Let's go to the beach," and he went to the beach. It was a great day of playing at the beach, and you know, he fell asleep in the sand. And when he woke up, family was gone, man. You know, full on Grimm's brother fairy tale nightmare story of family abandoning the kid on the beach. So, you know, he lived on the beach after that, just stayed. You know, found some other kids who were also similarly abandoned on the beach, eating out of garbage cans, stealing people's food, and so on. Apparently, it's a popular thing to do, and some guy there said, you know what, you guys, you can come to my place, you can eat for free, you know, you can clean up around the place, and that place happened to be a martial arts studio. You know, guy adopted him off the beach, saved his life. He said so.
No shit. How cold is that? I mean, it's
That
bad
shit,
enough.
yeah,
Like in the
man,
fairy tales when you wrap a kid up in a basket and a blanket and ring the doorbell and run
yeah,
away.
yeah,
You know,
right,
that's
right,
cold
right.
enough, but
Yeah,
wow, I had no idea.
yeah. So he has no memory, you know, no idea where they are, you know, just you know. I
Oh,
lay crap like that on the steps of the church, man. Sorry, no,
well,
you
yeah,
know,
something.
because if you got 6 kids, 5 kids, you can't take care of them, and you're poor, you shouldn't be forced to have any more. But
Well,
anyway,
and think of the mental trauma too of that particular method. Just
yeah,
oh, hi, mom and
yeah,
dad, nice day at
yeah,
the
right.
beach. I just got done for a swim. I'm gonna take a little nap, and
Yeah, right. Come
it's
on, let's go. You know, shit, man. Anyway, I wrote about the story. So Carlos Eduardo Hoja is the one he's up here in Northern California now. He's gave me you know, so they're tough guys. It doesn't mean I know anything at all about Mirbek Tasumov or Tai Hyun Bang. Sorry. And same with Royston Wee and Dave Galera.
yeah. So let's speak for the mainstream voice here and skip over those. I think that's a fair representation. That
I guess
you know they,
that's a don't care, fellas. But I'm sorry, we just you know the PR machine. You got to hire a better PR agent. You know what can I say?
that is pure and adulterated. Don't care on
Mm,
both ways, on both matchups there. But that's all right because we're running late as hell, and I want to go on Katsunori Kukuno versus Quinn Mulhern.
mm,
I'm a Kukuno mark. Um, real atypical and ain't changing it. You know, his stance, he's got this kind of stance like he's holding a shield up in front of his face, but
mm, mm.
everyone thought that eventually that would change and you know and he'd get punished for it and have to go to a more traditional MMA style, and I don't believe he has. Master of the crescent kick. So I'm digging him.
Yeah.
I was surprised he's not on the main card, but I actually think that Quinn Mulhern might be kind of a tough matchup for him, man. Long, langy submission guy. What do you think?
Yeah, it'll be a tough matchup for him. If you look back and see, like, you know, the guys, you know, Eddie Alvarez has submitted him, you know, and Shazias Cavalcante decisioned him. But he hasn't, I mean, if you're looking for losses as a way to kind of uncover, you know, weaknesses in the guy, I'm not seeing any significant losses that are uncovering any weaknesses, but it could just be body type, you know, and I think you're right. It's not going to stop me from picking him in this fight because I gotta go with the old guys, you know. But well, I mean, shit, is he technically an old guy? I mean, is 32 old at this point in MMA? I'd say yes. You know, if the guy has been fighting since how long has he been fighting since 2005? Sorry, yeah, he's technically an old guy. So
Yeah,
I'd be
to me,
put
rather than his age, I mean, he kind of
fight
came up
years.
just as Pride was, you know, going under. That's when
Mm.
he was starting to come up. I believe he's the deep champion. He started out that
He
way,
was a
but
deep champion, and then after that it was Dream. So yeah, yeah.
he looked solid. I think his loss to Alvarez was gained him more respect than a lot of his past wins because he came, he nailed the crescent kick a couple times, and then
Yeah.
he had that whacked out standing crucifix. One time and he held Eddie in that for a while.
Right.
And
That's
I want to
right.
say even
That's
the
right.
announcers were kind of going, I'm not sure what's going on here. And afterwards, Eddie was like wobbling all over, and Eddie came on. Eddie came on the underground forum for a Q&A, and I asked him about that, and he said something along the lines, man, I couldn't believe it. I thought that hold was bullshit, but the next thing you know, I was starting to black out. And he said it took me a little while to recover from that. So, to me, kids, that's all you need to know about Kakuno. I mean, in the vein of Machida, traditional style, martial artist. I believe. What style of karate? Do you know?
I don't know, and
Some
that's
purist
strange.
out there is going to hate on us for it
Well,
now.
no, because I'm a karate guy. I should know this, but this thing I don't know.
I
Um,
don't think
and,
it's
and,
Shorin Ryu. Well, it's a wiki page away if anyone's up for it.
well, and also, Mulhern is a submission guy, sort of as well. He's got 11 of his wins have been by submission. So, you know, I I don't know. I mean, it could be a pretty interesting fight. You know what? He lost to Jason High, as I should ask friend of Knuckle Up sports agent extraordinaire Mike Hogan about it, since he reps Jason High. But yeah, I don't know too much about Quinn Mulhern. I mean, I've heard the name, and I did see him lose to Jason High, and I did see him lose to Rick Story. And he's spent a lot of time in Strikeforce, which is how I know him. But the guys he beat in Strikeforce were not guys who were of note to me. So
He's pretty legit. He's coming into his own. I think he was a scouting report, a Bloody Elbow scouting report. So
mm-hmm.
usual shout out to Leland and Smoogie for their good work there. But long, lanky submission guy. I thought he was
Okay.
pretty one-dimensional, but I think to me, his wrestling is going to be the key to his future, and in this matchup too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and Jay-Z was in his prime when he beat Kakuno, and Alvarez, I don't think there's any shame in that. To me, Mulhern's going to have to use his length in the best semblance of striking he can put together, but to me, it's going to be all about how that length transmits to leverage when he gets in the clincher, tries to put Kakuno on his back with his takedowns. To me, that should be the deciding factor in this fight, because if he can't do that with any sort of regularity,
Right.
despite his height and length advantage, I don't think he's going to be able to hang for too long
Right.
with Kakuno on the feet.
Right.
So I'll go Kakuno by TKO.
Okay. All right. Damn. Okay. All right. I said we're just. Okay. I'm gonna on the opposite side of the fence, no matter what, to be a contrarian. The next one, Max Holloway and the aforementioned Will Chope. So your pick?
Man, I'm kind of torn on this one because I really like Holloway. Young dude, loads and loads of talent. He's been a dude that I've just really had my eye on. But I'm really, now, doing a bunch of research and watching a lot of Chope's fight. He's on a 14-fight win streak. Okay, so his record is something like 19-5, but I want to say he lost 4 out of his first 5 fights ever. So that kind of really tells the story about the latter part of his career, and I think he's on like some kind of obscene 13 or 14 fight win streak right now.
Yeah.
He's got a lot of.
Holloway's coming off of 2 losses too. So.
Yeah, well, that's why I kind of want Holloway to. This is one of those where I don't want to see either guy lose, really, and I think Holloway's got more on the line. So I'd really, if it were up to me, all neat and tidy, I'd like to see Holloway win with Chope just making a good showing. But I don't know, Chope, man, 6'4" for a featherweight, that's frightening. And I'm really looking forward to see how he performs at the top level, because he's initially billed as, I think he's had a couple K1 fights. I want to say maybe he was like a Sanda champion, lots and lots of straight striking experience. But I mean, he's got a ton of submissions. I think homeboy had like 5 or 6 rear naked chokes in a row on his way up here.
Right.
So hell, I don't know, man. I mean,
and Holloway is not so strong in the submission count. He's come by none of his wins have been by submission, and one of his losses was by submission. So I don't know. I mean, you make a pick, and I'll take the opposite just for the sake of gamesmanship. But I'm seeing this going for Chope.
Yeah, I kind of too, but all right, so I'll take Holloway as just kind of a homer pick because I want to see him do well. But I can't imagine, though, with a guy who's as talented on paper as a striker as Chope. I mean, 6'4" that I can't even fathom So how many inches he's going to have? You know
Oh, he's
what?
like 5, 5 inches over him, right?
How about reach though?
Oh
You know
yeah,
what I mean? A six
yeah,
foot
right,
four
yeah,
dude
yeah,
is
yeah,
a
yeah, yeah, yeah,
gangly
yeah, right,
bastard,
right, right,
and in
right,
a
right,
striking matchup, that's a big deal, especially with a guy
right.
that like Quinn Mulhern. He'll have all kinds of length on Kakuno, but I don't see that translate. I actually, use the example that I think that'll translate better to leverage with his clinch and wrestling, because
Right.
he's not really now. If you get a guy like Chope with serious height and length and homeboy, knows striking mechanics, he knows how to bob and weave in the pocket and use
Mm-hmm.
footwork to get in. Who? I don't know. I mean, I'm really looking forward to this one. So I'll go Holloway, you go Chope.
Okay.
Right, right.
Which backs us up nicely to Kyung Ho Kang and Sanushi Simuzu, and and I got no idea.
Well, I wrote up the dissection on this one, so I get a little bit of a bonus there. Actually, Kang he's kind of got, I don't even know what the right term is, but he's been on the really rough end of a couple decisions.
Mm.
Let's see. The first one was Alex Caceres.
Oh yeah, yeah.
If you go on MMADecisions.com, I want to say like 11 of the 12 media guys scored it for him over Caceres.
Mm.
Caceres smoked weed, whatever, got pissed hot for weed afterwards, so that was changed
No
to a no
contest.
contest.
Yeah, yeah.
Then he fought Chico, your boy Chico Camus,
Mm. Camus.
in Camus.
Yeah.
And all the controversy on that was that's the one where Camus landed that up kick off his back in like the
Mm.
last, I want to say like
Yep.
10 seconds.
Yep.
And
Round 3.
yeah, and I want to say Kang was pretty handily winning the fight before that. And almost
Mm.
that one, most of the media guys gave it to Camus. And I think that does go to show the most memorable offense of the round is, I mean, that's 80% of how people are going to score.
Yeah, right.
The debate, of course, is whether that last 10 seconds was enough to outweigh what happened before that. But either way, I think Kang's pretty legit. He's had a couple tough losses. Shimizu is one of those. There's a couple cats like this on the card where, they're old like Pancrase vets where they've been around. They've been
Mm.
around forever.
Mm.
Their striking is almost more like showman striking. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Because in Pancrase and a lot of
Right.
those cards, it's only a matter of time before they lock up and grapple. I mean, that's the
Yeah.
heart and soul of what everyone wants to see.
Yeah.
So his striking is kind of whacked out. You know what I mean? A
Mm.
lot of flash, not what I would call like traditional, reliable, real effective or efficient type of striking. But
Yeah.
I did read that he's gone over to Tiger Muay Thai a couple times and went there again in anticipation of his debut.
Mm-mm.
Um, Kang's going to have some size and length on him.
Mm.
There's an argument, Anton Tubuena, sorry, Anton Tubuena, he's our boy over in the Philippines, who's the most knowledgeable guy I know for Asian MMA,
Mm.
and he seemed to think that that Shimizu was going to be, I was going to say significantly more. Let's just make it easy and say more technical in his grappling and maybe a little quicker. So to me, though, I mean, Kang's demonstrated that he can hang on the level with some pretty tough cats. So I'm going to go with Kang, but I'm real interested to see.
Oh, okay. All right. Then good. This sets me because I was going to go with Shimizu.
There you go.
I just, you have to have a really bad run of luck for me to think that an 11-7 fighter is going to beat a 28-8 fighter.
Ooh, all right. So that's all right because that's a good point. I talked about that, and that's what's so hard. I mean, that's that whole quantity versus quality thing, and
Mm.
you never know until these cats square off. So to me, a big reason for picking Kang is that he showed he can hang, at the level. I actually have a lot of respect for Caceres, even though he's got a not that he's a world beater, but he's got a unique style and he's a tough package to overcome. But
I had
overall,
one of my weirdest interviews ever with his brother, who's also a fighter, Jose. It was just weird, man.
yeah,
I don't have no idea. Like the guy didn't think. I don't know. It was like Robbie Lawler weird. Like he didn't think I. So I'm interviewing you for the show. He's like, yeah. like no,
like
really. I'm really interviewing you for. We're on the show now. Oh sure. I was like, okay, man. Whatever. We did the interview, but it was bona fide strange. I don't say that easily. So
what was that interview for? What outlet?
for Knuckle Up, man.
Really?
Yeah. It's
And
a
you had
bad
it on?
What's
So
that?
there's footage of this interview out there?
Yeah, it's. I mean, it was on the phone. So in the old days, I just hold the phone up to the screen, But
Nice, nice.
I mean, not old days. It's like in the last 12 months, 13 months. Weird. It was, yeah. It was up there. It was like Chris Rock was one of my weirder celebrity interviews. It was kind of, if you ask you're an interviewer and you ask a question, you're used to getting an answer. I don't know, in the first 15 seconds. And if a guy is just kind of like, and then 15 seconds goes by, you're kind of a little bit uncomfortable. But with Chris Rock, he was really thinking about stuff. So I was like, man, this is like completely opposite of what you would expect of the guy. You thought it'd be a much quicker study, but he was deep, contemplative, fucking Yoda type cat,
Actually, I respect some of those long pauses if it means that they're actually stopping to really think
Oh
about an
yeah,
answer.
oh yeah, yeah,
Because half the time when you're interviewing someone and you can tell they start talking right away, it's a
yeah,
recycled
yeah,
cliche.
right,
You know what I mean?
exactly,
There's
right,
no thought into it. But
right, right.
15 seconds, I mean, that's a dramatic ass
I,
pause right
I,
there.
I could be exaggerating the length of the pause, but it felt like 15 seconds, But so Jose was kind of like that. But anyway, yeah, yeah, I like his brother quite a lot. So
All right, so I failed to mention that last fight was the first on the main card, which I believe
correct.
starts at 9 a.m. Second fight on the card, dude, I actually kind of have a personal liking for Luis Dutra Jr., a.k.a. Besoro. He fights out of the Hanau Vacau fight team. They're the sole epicenter for the resurgence of lucha libre in MMA.
Mm.
I don't know if you and I have talked about that before, but
Oh, of course.
Marcio,
I'm a Luda Livre guy, man.
are you really? Fuck it.
Yeah.
We obviously haven't talked about it before. So, you know Cremado, Marcio Cremado?
No, no, no. This is somebody I don't know.
He fought in Shuto. He fought the guy who used to train under Ryan Bowe.
Uh,
Um, real legit dude though, but he this whole time is kind of stuck with this tiny little clica, over in Brazil, and they
mm,
kept on with the luta libre, and his top student is Marcelo Brigadeiro,
yeah,
who's the grappling coach over at Team Calban. I don't even know if I say that right, but Paul
yeah.
Sass, Terry
Yep,
Edom,
yep, 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 yep.
all those cats. So Besoro is out of there, and I mean, dude is really, really legit. He was on the second Tough Brazil.
Mm,
He was the first pick, I believe, and won 2 fights, but then his hand was injured, so he had to bail.
yeah.
Actually, he was one of the few guys I think they brought back from that show, but real solid. Got,
Yeah.
I think, 2 wins over Fabricio Camoes, although I think one was via injury. Also beat Luis Ramos, who fought in the
Mm-hmm,
UFC, got
mm-hmm,
shellacked by Eric Silva.
mm-hmm.
So, really, no matter what, that's my boy. I'm going to, try to keep the Lucha Libre thing alive, and I'm going to go with
Yeah,
him.
yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Me too.
what I don't know, Kunamoto does, to me. I mean, there wasn't anything. Another Pancrase vet, no big names. Mostly subs. To me, not to be a dick, but that's kind of like the typical unknown. We don't
Yeah,
know. The
yeah,
dude's legit,
yeah,
decent record, no big names, a
yeah. I
lot
don't
of
know.
subs.
Would
So
it make would it make a difference anyway? I mean, Leopoldo Sorrell, my coach, a Luda Libre guy. I've been learning Luda Libre from him for the past 4 years. I'm sold. I would have gone with Dutra no matter what.
all
You
right,
know,
yeah, yeah, me too.
11,
Besoro.
11 and 2 says it all.
Yeah, he's a pimp,
You
man. I think he's going to be
yeah,
able to hang around for a while. So,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
all right, getting back to the top two. I mean, damn, especially since we opened the show with all that pride talk.
Mm-hmm.
Kawajiri, Crusher. It's unfortunate, man. It seems like every marquee pride guy has come over to the UFC. And I don't think I'm exaggerating. 3, 4, maybe 5 years past their prime. You agree?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I agree. But I mean, he's he's had a good run. The first time I saw him was he was when he lost to so back in 2010 when he lost to
Gil?
Aoki. And I remember going into the Gil fight, I was like, "Oh, Gil's gonna have a hard time because he beat Josh Thompson right before that, and I see Josh and Gil as being fairly close to the skill level, but yeah, but Gil got him. Of course, the fact that Cecil Peoples was one of the judges that night, or was he a judge or a ref? Stinks it up for me. But but no, he's not to be. He's come off a win streak. I mean, he beat Drew Fickett, Joaquin Hansen, who mentioned earlier. I mean, and then the 3 other fighters. He's doing well, man. So
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Crusher ain't to be trifled with. I mean, he was head to head. There was that beautiful trilogy back in the Pride days where it was Maha Sakurai, Gomi, and Kawajiri all just
yep,
on a
yep,
collision course to
yep.
see who was going to be. And people always get all butthurt about this, but at that point in time, kids, this was the number one lightweight on planet Earth. The UFC liquidated the whole lightweight division.
Yep.
Penn had beat Gomi, but then he went on, gallivants around at whatever, welterweight, middleweight, fighting the Machitas of the world. So, and that's what I loved about. That's what I really like about the flyweight tournament. It's the first time the UFC has done this. When you have all the premier talent under one roof, and you hold a tournament,
right?
You literally chisel the world rankings based on the results of that tournament.
Correct.
And that's what I loved about that Pride Bushido tournament. But I believe Kawajiri ended up as two, because Gomi tore through both Sakurai, and the Kawajiri matchup was epic. And I'm actually surprised. I'm pleasantly surprised that he can make featherweight now and appears to have the cut down, because this is not your typical Japanese fighter. This is a Japanese fighter so many people had high hopes for because his style is highly Americanized. This is just a powerful, imposing wrestler with just excellent submission knowledge, good ground and pound. I mean, he's a fucking brick shit house. And I'm real excited to see if he can make some waves over here. So
at the age of 35, I'm pulling for him.
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm going to pick him no matter what. So I think we both are. As far as Sean Soriano, Black Zillions guy, he's undefeated, and I know he's got a wrestling background, and I couldn't confirm whether it was all high school or I'm sorry, if it was college or just high school. I believe it's limited to high school.
Right.
But I did tally up his opponent's win and loss record, and cumulatively they're 37 and 34.
So it's great. It's great that you've done that, man. This is high quality MMA delivery vehicles. This is what we got here. And tally up the win-loss record of the guy's opponents. That's nails, man. That's great.
In math, as everyone knows, is not a strong point of mine. But in his defense, I think there was one dude that had like 13 losses. The bulk of them were like, the top guys towards the end were like 6-2, 6-2, 4-2. Then it kind of got down middle of the range. So that's fine.
I'm not giving him too much with that fight he had with the guy from that TV show Friends. I mean,
Matthew Perry.
I'm glad that Matthew Perry is out there, holding it down for the Friends crew. But I don't give a shit whether he beat him or not. Really, next thing he was going to fight next, Jennifer Aniston. I mean, come on.
All right, I noticed that too. I was a little worried about making the Friends joke, so I'm glad you made it. We'll see how that goes.
I got no shame, man. I'll go Friends joke deep. I don't give a shit. I don't care. What are you gonna say to a man who's got nothing to lose?
But I mean, I want Kawajiri, strong showing, man. Oh, and I read the other day, Crooklyn. No, it was Anton on Bloody Elbow did an interview with Kawajiri. I don't know what it was. Don't get mad at me, but there was something going on before the Gill fight, and he didn't make an excuse, but I remember some people in the comments were saying, well, that might explain why Gill just smashed him, because this is a dude that
he threatened, but Gill did that Death Valley diver thing, where he just said, the guy was on his back sinking in the choke, and Gill was like, fuck it, and just dove into the mat and shucked him off that way. I mean, that was
them elbows.
Yep. Freed him up of the Kawajiri backpack, and then ran down the elbows. So.
Right. Yeah, but so for everyone that's not familiar with him, this is a cat that, the number one UFC lightweight contender right now, Josh Thompson. This is a dude that Kawajiri handily defeated with his wrestling. I mean, his gameness and his wrestling and his technical ability, it's that good. So
Josh is homosexuality, bestiality Thompson.
Expound? Yeah. Unless you just want everyone to walk away.
No. He said it. On his Facebook page, he was comparing homosexuality to bestiality, and then when people fucking flipped out, as they justifiably should have, he was like, "Hey, I was just raising some debate points."
I hear a lot of people getting pissed off at Josh for his Facebook, and I don't even.
He lost me as a fan and as a friend because of his Facebook. I'm cordial when I see him now, but I just can't. you know, just politically, man, it's hard to be connected to somebody who's a dumbass. You
He
know?
seems to be jaded towards the media and the general public enough that he's just fucking with people now. You know, I don't know Josh at all, but I get the idea that he crossed the line a while ago that he's not going to be adored by the masses. So,
Yeah. Well, that's good. If he's made his peace with that, that's great. You know.
all right, so let's talk about Big Show. I don't even know how long this show has been on, but I'm guessing 45 minutes too long. The Belgian Tarek Saffiedine versus Hunt Aislim. We're going to call him Aislim. Korean top team guy. Um, I actually kind of have like a little. I didn't have to research this one or whatever because I've been thinking about this one after it's announced and kind of have like a little theme built into my head on how this is going to go. You got any thoughts on this one?
Um,
Excuse me.
man, you know, I'm gonna. This is a tough one for me for one pretty significant reason, and that's that I don't know. I,
Well said.
I thought that Saffiedine was going to beat Woodley, and he didn't. You know, and okay, then he beat Scott Smith and Roger Bowling and Nate Marquardt. Those were decision wins, right? And he lost to a guy who I trained with, James Terry. Also, James Terry decisioned him. You know, I'm not going to say that Tarek Saffiedine is a guy I can't trust, a gift, but it's be foolhardy given the fact that he's come off a pretty good tear. You know, I mean, Scott Smith is no slouch, neither Roger Bowling or Nate Marquardt, but I don't know if it was Nate Marquardt pre or post bust. I can't remember, but they were decisions, man, which in my mind means that they could go. I'm going to have to go with Lim. Sorry.
No, actually, man, I mean, maybe I should have told you this beforehand, but I'm not even going to like him and haw about it. I'm going to take Lim here. I think it's a really good matchup for him. Okay. Tell me if you agree. Here's my thoughts here. First of all, it's no disrespect at all to Saffiedine. I think that he is, you know, he's one of those ultra technical guys where he's the kind of cat you can really appreciate some of his footwork and a lot of the subtleties of not just MMA, but striking in MMA. And you can see some of his karate type background. And I think it's beautiful. Like the way he just undressed Nate Marquardt was beautiful. And he's always showed signs of having, although, you know, for me too, I was high on him, but your boy James Terry, man, I thought he was going to make some waves because he's a talented cat for sure.
Yeah.
But so here's my thoughts on Saffiedine. If you watch, for what I marvel about his game, it's his range fighting game. You know, the dude is like a tactician. He's like a sniper from out on the fringe with his low kicks and he's got kind of an off rhythm and he's real, you know, he's real well versed in all these like little things, just, you know, movement in anticipating and throwing unpredictable combinations. But, you know, Lim is 6'2". I better look. Yeah, he's 6'2". Saffiedine's 5'10". Lim's got a 79-inch reach.
Whoa.
Saffiedine's going to clock in at 70. So that right off the bat is going to take a lot of the venom out of Saffiedine's you know, artistry from out on the fringe.
Yep.
And Lim is nowhere close to like that kind of polished and creative. He's going to come straight forward and try to put a bunch of straight lefts right on his jaw. But the good thing is he's a mauler in the clinch. So to me, this is going to be, it's kind of weird. I don't think we've ever had a tall, gangly, multifaceted, more of like a brawler. And that's not to say he doesn't have technique, but he's an assertive dude. He's the kind of dude where he's gonna take punching you in the face really hard a bunch of times over executing a strike, you know, to perfection. So even though I don't even know what the odds are, I know that Lim is not going to be favored, but I'm going to take him in this one. I think that this is a real rough matchup for Saffiedine, and his technique and all that bullshit that I just lauded him for is going to have to be on point to the fullest for him to get by this test. I don't think he's going to be able to do it.
Yeah, I don't think so either. And also there's the X factor that we haven't factored in, which is the fact that everybody, even though the time is crappy for U.S. viewing, in their minds, the fact that this is like a U.S. promotion. I mean, this could be a breakout chance. These guys are going to be fighting like it could be a breakout chance. You know, it's like I could keep fighting Singapore and, you know, Australia and Macau for the rest of my life, or I could be a big shit in Vegas. So if it's a guy, limb against an American cat, man, he's hitting for the fences. No way is he gonna try to like, maybe I'll luck out and get out of this thing with a decision. Nah, he's not. No way. No way.
Yeah, and Lim will come out. The biggest concern with Lim is usually making weight because I mean, he's a big, big boy.
Yeah.
And I think I think he maybe was supposed to fight Macau and got pulled off that card. Marcelo Guimaras he was supposed to fight, I believe. But I agree. I mean, and I think Saffiedine's on the fringe of that. After he beat Marquardt, no one was expecting that, and then people started to raise their eyebrows, like this dude could come into the fold. And I think the same applies now, and I think most people are kind of looking at Saffiedine as a shoo-in here, but I think Lim is going to come. I think Lim is going to. The only thing is this is a 5-rounder, and I do think Saffiedine's got the economy and the technique that might favor him a little more as it goes on. But I don't think he has the punching power. His leg kicks are enough to do damage, but I don't think he's got the power enough to withstand Lim for all 5 rounds. So I don't know if Lim can finish him. That's the only thing. I'm going to probably pick Lim by TKO, but Saffiedine's not easy to finish. So a decision, But either way, I'm going to go with Lim here for the upset. You too?
Yep. Solid. Right. Sorry, I wish you were more on the opposite side of the fence, but I've seen Saffiedine. I mean, I've known him from, again, the Strikeforce stuff, and 'cause it's local to me, and I'm just not. I'm not. He's not like I said, not a guy I can't trust. It'd be stupid to say that about a guy coming off a 3 or 4 fight win streak, but he still feels to me. I expected to see him do better over a longer term than I have, and like I said, it seems strange to say that with a guy coming off a win streak, but I always expected more, and then didn't get it even if he happened to win. Doesn't matter if I'm expecting 10, you give me 7, and 5 was all you needed to win, and you won. That's fine, but I got a lurking thing in my head where it's like, yeah, I don't know if he could have gotten to 10, So 7 was all you needed to win. That's fine, But I'm going to call it the limb on this one.
Yeah, I know what you're saying too with Saffiedine because he's kind of shown shades of mediocrity and excellence at the same time. So,
right.
All right, let's wrap this sumbitch.
Yes.
What do you say?
We're done.
Too long. All right. Thanks everyone for watching. Right now there's 1,000 viewers. Thank you all, 1,000 of you. Might be a couple zeros off, but this is how Nate. This is how Nate and I say goodbye. One of these.
No, I do it like this. There you go.
Oh my God, that is just crude.
And it's great if I take my hands off the steering wheel when I do it. It's great.
All right, y'all. Thanks for watching.
Next week.
Yeah, next week. Maybe me and you again. All right, we'll figure it out.
All right, later. Bye.